Hello, welcome to the live stream, whether watching live or the replay, welcome. I'm going to be looking over to my left here because I've jotted down some notes that I want to make sure I touch on, but I want to introduce myself first. So my name is Sean Magner. It's been a few weeks since I've done a live stream in the group here, but I was traveling, doing some travel up to the Northeast to visit some friends and family. Hey Jimmy, what's up, buddy? And so I've taken a few weeks off from doing these live streams, but I want to get back into it. And today I'm going to be touching on some personal development stuff. But first, let me introduce myself. So my name is Sean Magner, and what's up, Jason? I run what's called Monument City Group, which is a collective of real estate investing businesses based here in Baltimore, Maryland, primarily focused on hard money lending and buy and hold rental acquisition and management. I also run the PIA, the Property Investing Academy, which is both this Facebook group and also a coaching mentorship program that I started last year. And again, so today, guys, I want to touch on personal development, reinvesting in yourself. And I know a lot of the folks watching this are probably doing a lot of these things, probably focused on some sort of personal development. And so to that point, if you could drop a comment, I'd be curious. And I'm going to try to be able to see them during the live stream. If not, I'll respond to the comments after. Sometimes when I do this, I don't know how to see the comments live. But I'd be curious to hear what things you are doing. So I'm going to share some of the things that I do. Of course, this is a really big topic. And so I'm just going to touch on some of the things I do, and I'll explain why this topic specifically. But if you could drop a comment, letting me know a few things that you do in the area of personal development for yourself, whether that's personal or professional, but just development. And so anyhow, let's get into it. So why this topic and why now? Well, why now? Because it's Q4. We just started Q4. We're pushing to the end of the year. We're going to try to finish the year strong. And I think that a part of the reason for this topic is, well, that's part of the reason for the topic, but also I had a conversation with a good buddy of mine recently, and a really good friend of mine. And he's also in the real estate entrepreneur space. And he was attending a conference a couple weeks ago. He was going to be attending a conference in Las Vegas, and he'd never done that. He'd never invested in himself or his business in this way, where he was going to take time away from his friends, his family, and his home and his business to go to this conference. And he was really excited. And it got me kind of thinking about kind of my own personal development journey, if you will, which is just that. It's a journey. I've been doing this for a long time. A lot of people have that's listening, and some of you may be new to this, but it's just an evolution. I've just been on this grind for a long time, but I want to share some of the key things from this conversation I had with him. So he had never been to Vegas. He had never invested in a mastermind like this, where he paid a lot of money, a good amount of money, a few $1,000 to attend. And to take time away from his home and his business. But we had a debrief after he came back, and we actually talked this morning as well. But we had a debrief when he got back, and I kind of asked him, hey man, what were your big takeaways? Like, what were some of the big takeaways that you got from this? And I'm just kind of reading here some of the notes. So big takeaways for him was that he's charging too little for his service. And he's going to remain unnamed because I don't want you guys calling him and saying, hey man, what are you taking your prices up? He's charging too little for his services, so they are going to be going up. He plans to take his pricing up over the next couple of quarters. He was also introduced to a concept for additional revenue inside of his existing business, the way that it's set up today, that he hadn't considered previously, that he's going to be implementing here in Q4 or Q1 of next year, that are just going to, flat out move the needle, the bottom line immediately for him without having to do a heck of a lot more. And the other thing that he mentioned to me was that he got so many nuggets from this that he kind of felt overwhelmed. And if you've attended any of these types of things, you know they throw a lot of value at you. And it can be overwhelming. And it can ultimately result in kind of analysis paralysis, if you will, right? Not doing anything, overthinking it, considering all of the things that you just learned. If you were to try to implement all of them, I'll speak to this in a minute in my own experiences. If you try to implement all of them, it's actually going to be detrimental to your business in that you'll likely be overwhelmed, focused on all of these things, that your core revenue generating activities will take a hit, and we don't want that. But so one of his takeaways was that, hey, I learned so much and I got so many notes. I took some copious notes, and but what I've decided was to look at those things and break down, just choose 2, maybe 3 that I can implement without disruption to the rest of the business. And so that's what he's doing. And I think that was a really good point. So I say this often. If you know me, you've probably heard me say this, but this analogy of drinking from a fire hose, right? Often when you attend these types of events, it feels that way. You're being poured into so much content, so much value that it can feel like you're drinking from a fire hose and you're not really going to retain a lot, right? And so it's nice to take a lot of notes, but then afterwards do a debrief, prioritize 1 or 2 action items that you can take and put into your business without the detriment of the rest of the business. So a couple highlights that I want to speak to, and then I'll get into it. So things that I've done over just the past year. So I've been doing this personal development thing. A lot of us have for many, many years, and there's lots of ways to do it. But just in the past year, I've spent north of $60,000 on a list here of a few things. So 3 or 4, it's actually I think 4 or 5 conferences that I've attended. I've hired a new business coach. I've joined 2 new masterminds. If you don't know what a mastermind is, I can explain that then. Hit me below. Hit me in the comments and below. I hired a personal trainer. This is a little over a year ago, but I hired a personal trainer. I've been working with him weekly, multiple times a week at the gym. I've been working with a cognitive behavioral therapist for some mental health, mindset, behavioral thinking pattern type of activities or work. And then, of course, like the rest of us, dozens and dozens, probably countless amounts of podcasts and books that I've consumed and consume regularly every day. So I want to share this. In my 30s, I'm 41 years old. In my 30s, I sacrificed my health in a big way for my business, right? And many entrepreneurs do this. A lot of entrepreneurs do this. We sacrifice our health in our 30s to build the business, which was great. The business is thriving. It's doing very well now. However, it's now time to reprioritize me. And so, some of those look like conferences, attending coaching, hiring a coach, attending conferences, joining the masterminds, fitness, therapy, learning resources. These are all important ways that I'm now getting back to focusing on. I've always done some of them, but now I'm really prioritizing them because the business is where I want it to be. I still work on it. I'm still growing the business. I'm still expanding, adding new systems, new software, new people, new processes, all of that. Yes. However, I'm also now less business versus Sean. I'm kind of trying to keep them a little more leveled out and splitting my priorities between the two, not just focused on the one. And also, I think becoming a husband and a father over the last 5-6 years here has been 4 or 5 years, I guess. Today is my wife and I's anniversary. 4 years married, 7 or so together. But becoming a father and a husband has also forced me to focus on my health again and my personal development, not just my business's development. So let's talk about conferences. So just to touch on this, I attend conferences regularly. In a couple of weeks, I'm heading out to Vegas with a group of local private lenders. We're going to go out there for an annual conference from the American Association of Private Lenders. It's a big group of us going out there. We're going to do some fun stuff while we're out there, but also attend some dinners, attend some this conference. It's just a 2-day conference, but we're going out for 4 days. Going to have a little fun, which will be a lot of fun. A few weeks ago, my wife and son went to our beach condo for 4 days during the week. She pulled them from school and they went just because I was going to be attending an all day. I'm looking at my notes here. One of the days was 16 hours, a virtual conference, sitting in my chair in front of my computer here. One of the days was a 16-hour day just sitting in front of this conference. But, the connections you make at these events, the skills you take away from these events, the tools, the resources, all help to move the business forward. So they are very important to do. And while motivation is typically only temporary for most, these events, these conferences also provide some of that, right? And so it's important that, for me at least, that I attend these pretty often. So I always like to have some sort of a conference or event, mastermind or conference on my calendar. Now talk about hiring a coach. So I hired a coach back in, I think it was October of last year, to really help me build one of my businesses in a very strategic way. And I'll tell you, I got my start in business by surrounding myself with mentors, people that would help me to cut the line, shorten the learning curve. I could learn from their mistakes so I could avoid making them myself. And this is what he has helped me to do. He's helped me to implement some systems that he's used in his successful business to benefit my own. Now, can everybody do that right out of the gates? This was not an inexpensive investment, so probably not. And anything that I learn at all these events I attend, you can learn for free on YouTube University. I'm not kidding myself there. However, you can shorten the learning curve. You can cut the line. They can be the cheat code and help you to connect the dots. And if you know me well, you've heard me say this countless times at this point. You're probably tired of hearing it. But in reading The Gap in the Gain a few months ago, actually about a year ago at this point, I learned the idea of connecting dots forward versus backwards. You cannot connect dots forward. You can't predict the future, but you can connect them backwards. So hiring a coach allows you to pay for them to help you to connect the dots. That's the whole idea. And so I hired a coach last year, and it's been tremendous. Working with him has produced, it is definitely quantifiable, but almost immeasurable gain in my business and my personal psyche and such. And masterminds. A mastermind, guys, if you don't know what a mastermind is, well, it's 2024. You probably know what a mastermind is. But ideally, I think that it might have been Napoleon Hill. I think it might have been Napoleon Hill that kind of coined that mastermind concept. But anyway, ideally, you get in a room or an online room, virtual or in person, with other professionals similar to yourself, maybe not exactly to what you're doing, but very similar to what you do. And you share ideas and strategies and concepts and resources and thoughts. And it's a group of other, because a lot of times what we do is isolated, right? It feels like we're on an island. And so it's nice to surround yourself with others that are doing what you're doing, and they're doing things differently. And maybe you can learn from them and they can learn from you. And I think that's pretty important. So certainly having the masterminds is a big deal. Hey, Danya, Rob, Curtis, Joe, thanks for joining, guys. Now, health and fitness. I'm just reading off some notes that I made before the call here. I definitely neglected my health in my 30s, no doubt about it. I gained weight, had more stress. In fact, I had this spot on my beard, a white spot. It started about really small, about the size of half a dime, and it grew to be about the size of a quarter. And it was just a white spot in my beard. There was hair there, but it was just white. And I was at a dermatologist for something unrelated one day, and she grabbed my beard and tugged on it. And she said, how long has this been here? I said, it's interesting. It's been growing for a couple months or so, getting bigger. And she said, are you under a lot of stress? And I said, lady, if you only knew. At the time, it was incredibly stressful. It was early days of my business. And she said, remove some of the stress and it'll come back. I thought, no kidding. Alopecia areata is what it was called. And sure enough, I went home and I sold off 10 of my properties that were problem children. And sorry, got a call. I had to send them to voicemail. Kind of cut out some of the stress. And sure enough, it came back. Now I'm gray now because I'm just older. But this spot was white. It was weird. So anyhow, I definitely neglected my health. So hiring a personal trainer has been tremendous for this reason. Same reason for a coach, accountability. This accountability piece is a big deal. Having an accountability partner, I have accountability partners in all of my businesses. I have an assistant. She is an accountability partner. I am accountable to her. She's accountable to me. My trainer at the gym. There are days that and I actually talked to my wife about this a few weeks ago. I was like, man, do I need to re-up the next, with the trainer, or should I not? And she said, Sean, absolutely you should. And she was right. Of course, she always is. But what was important there is that there are days I wake up, especially going into the cold season here, this time of year when it's dark early, and I'm not motivated to get out of bed when it's cold and dark to go to the gym. I know that I have a dude there waiting for me. And that accountability is tremendously helpful. Plus, he pushes me. I find that I work harder typically when I'm with him. I'd like to think I don't, but I do. I work harder when I'm with him. So anyhow, having a trainer has been a big deal. And at the gym, I try to sit in the sauna for a few times a week. And I'm not one of these cold plunge guys. I'd love to try it, but honestly, the cold shower at the end of a hot shower has scared the hell out of me. So I've tried it a few times. It's not for me. My wife would probably also kill me if I decided to bring a cold plunge tub home and put it on our back deck or in the garage or somewhere. So, also baseline testing and corrective action. This is pretty important. So, again, speaking to kind of correcting the negative or the neglection of my own health. I went to a med spa wellness center over the last couple of months, got some blood work done to find out kind of baseline numbers and see where the gaps were and what needed improvement, from hormones to vitamins, all of the blood work. We had a full panel done and it was pretty enlightening. And it's given me the ability to shoot with a rifle and not a shotgun. I say that a lot in case you don't know me well. Sorry, let me send this one over. Meaning instead of just scattering and trying to do all the healthy things, I know where my deficiencies are and I can focus on them. And that's a pretty important thing. So between the med spa / wellness center and primary care physicians, I think that's been pretty impactful. Also, working with a cognitive behavioral therapist. I've been working with one for a couple of years here now to help me. Man, she's been tremendous. She helped me to increase the time between the gap between action and reaction. As a new father and starting new businesses a few years ago, I was really overwhelmed. I was really stressed. And I came home one day and I told my wife, I had a meeting with a mentor of mine. He introduced me to a concept he read in a book. And this is not Gary Keller's The One Thing, but the concept in the book said, hey, what is one thing that I can do to improve your job here at the company or whatever, right? What's just one thing that I can do? So he asked his team this, they got back to him, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool. So I took it home and I had a conversation with my wife, and knowing that I was overwhelmed and I wasn't awesome to be around all the time, I said, hey, hon, what's one thing that I could do to improve things around here, make you happier or whatever? And so, and this is me getting a little vulnerable. And she said, she sat on it for a couple of days and she was very serious about it. She took it seriously. And she responded and she says, Sean, I know that you're resistant to therapy because I think of therapy for different things, right? I have different negative connotations towards therapy for some reason. I can explain that in another video. But she said, I think you could talk to somebody who could be a cognitive behavioral therapist. She looked into that specifically. And when I did my own research, I thought, oh man, this person's a secret weapon in my war chest. I don't know if any of you have seen the show Billions, but I think it was an HBO or one of those Showtime show years ago. They had their own therapist in the office. You could just go into their room midday and have a conversation and get some crap off your chest. It's kind of how I felt about her, my CBT, my cognitive behavioral therapist. So I got with one, and she's been tremendous. She helped me to kind of increase, again, the gap between action and reaction, right? It was nothing for me to be driving down the road, baby's crying, wife crawls in the back seat, we miss an exit on the highway, and the afternoon is ruined. Like crazy. When I say that now, it seems insane, but at the time, I just got overwhelmed all the time. And so you can imagine if that's happening at home, I'm also feeling overwhelmed at the business, at work as well. And so taking my health and fitness to more seriously has been tremendous. And I certainly have to thank my wife for that. And then the last thing I'll touch on here is just kind of podcasts and books. I know this audience, you're probably, listening to multiple podcasts right now. I can share my favorite podcasters with you, my favorite books. I'm happy to do that. I've got a whole flurry of books here in the other room. I'm an avid reader, have been for many, many years. I love podcasts, listen to them at the gym and while I'm driving. It's wonderful. But if you want, drop a comment below or direct, DM me and I can share. But there's lots of key takeaways there. Again, similarly to masterminds and conferences, you learn new things, you meet new people, you learn of new resources and new skills and tools and things, and no shortage of greatness there. Anyway, so that's kind of really what I wanted to touch on. I would encourage you guys, if you have, I'd love to hear that in the comments below, and I'm sorry, I can't even see them right now. I don't think I can. No, I can't see them right now. And I'm probably, if I start pushing too many buttons, I'm probably going to end up ending this thing. So I won't do that. But I will respond to the comments after the call. But if you could, drop some comments below or DM me if you're not comfortable putting it out there of some of the things that you do for personal development, right? I just shared some of what I do. I mean, I could elaborate on all of these things, but and listen, I know I mentioned earlier that in the past year alone, I've spent over $60,000 on what I'm considering this personal development between conferences, coaches, masterminds, trainers, therapists, books, and podcasts. That's insane. I know it's a lot for some and it's not much for others. I get that. It's a big number. And there was a time there was no way that I would be able to do that myself. However, I think that investing in myself to that level is pushing my business so much further ahead. It's making me a better husband, a better father, a better business operator, better boss. And my businesses and my own personal home, my house, we feel it, we see it, the results of this investment in yourself. So, I mean, you've probably heard the cliches before. I know I have. There is no greater investment than that investment in yourself. I fully support that. I fully believe that. But again, as I wrap this up, guys, I'm really curious to hear what things you're doing that I may not be in, that I may not have ever heard of. I'd love to hear it. I'm not like, I don't think I'm going to run out and buy a cold plunge tub, but I do understand that a lot of folks, that's a big deal. I'm just going to scroll back through my notes here to make sure I didn't miss anything that I think I want to cover. But again, if you have, now I think we're good here, but if you have any questions, thoughts on anything that you heard throughout this podcast or throughout this live stream, feel free to comment below, drop me a DM. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. If you or someone you know is trying to build a business in the real estate investing space specifically and could benefit from having a coach, being in a mastermind, attending conferences. I'm happy to share some of my resources. Yes, I am a coach myself, but I'm not going to plug that. I'm not necessarily doing that. I would love to share some of the events that I attend and the things that I'm a member of, because it's helped me tremendously and I know it can help others. So anyhow, guys, with that, it is about 1:22 here on October 3rd. I'm going to wrap up this live stream, wrap up the day, head home and pick up my wife and go out on a day date because it is our anniversary. I do appreciate your support in attending here today and being a member of the Property Investing Academy Facebook group. Please drop a comment below or DM me if there's anything I can help you with in your own personal development journey. So anyhow, with that, guys, have a great day. Finish the week strong. Finish the quarter strong. I'm going to hopefully be back on here next week, but push for a strong finish to the week, and hopefully we can connect next week. And with that, I will sign off. Hope you have a great one. Cheers, everybody.